There's a misconception that we don't exist, that somehow our ability to excel at the highest level of our industry is limited, that overcoming barriers as a woman of color would be insurmountable. But what would happen if we decided to venture out on our own despite everything we're up against? I'll tell you. Welcome to the Black Girls Consult 2 podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Angelina Davis, a healthcare consultant, consulting coach, high performance fanatic, wife, and proud girl mom. I help transform female professionals into thriving solo consultants. And just like you, I'm wearing all the hats and doing all the things. So this podcast is to empower the busy female professionals to move past fear to start and grow a successful consulting business, despite the obstacles you may encounter. We'll dive deep into consulting practice, business strategy, mindset, and more. So grab your cup of coffee or tea if that's your thing, and let's get started. Well, hello there. Welcome to the Black Girls Consult 2 podcast. If you are joining in for the first time, welcome. And if you are tuning back in, thanks so much for allowing me to grace your headset or your radio or whatever it may be that you're listening on right now. I am so happy that you are tuning in. And I wanted to start up this conversation today rather quickly because I have been watching a little bit of TV. I don't really do that often. There are a couple of shows that I just have to watch, and they're seasonal. And so ever since This Is Us went off the air earlier this year, then I have had nothing much to watch until the fall. But I do tune in, of course, to the news. And, sometimes that can be overwhelming because there's just so much going on in the world right now. But I am definitely an avid news watcher. I like to make sure that I'm keeping up with everything that's going on in our world, at least checking in once a day. I used to watch it more often, kind of like constantly, and it was causing me so much anxiety and stress. I had to reduce my consumption down to once or twice a day just to kind of make sure that I'm keeping up to speed with everything that's going on. Long story short, I was actually watching TV, this weekend, and I felt like every show I turned on kept talking about the economic state that we're in currently. And, all of the debates surrounding whether or not we are in a recession, going into a recession, how long the recession would last, what may happen to companies in the long run, what, large moguls and wealthy individuals such as Elon Musk and others are saying right now. And, I just got intrigued because I thought it was, really interesting when we went through the pandemic recently, because we all anticipated for all markets to crash. A lot of markets did suffer. Definitely, if you were in any aspect of travel, then that was definitely hard hit. But I work as a healthcare consultant, so I will say that on our end, we fared pretty well, understandably, because a lot of people needed healthcare. But I do know that one other area that really did well and kind of boomed a bit during the pandemic was consulting, or the consulting industry. And I think I've shared this on a previous episode before. And, a lot that is going on now is somewhat similar to what we experienced then, and then also going back to the economic downturn we experienced back in 2008. Although some predict that maybe if something happened this time, it could be potentially worse. We don't know. Whenever it comes to recession, these things are cyclic, and each time can be somewhat devastating for many. So I don't like to belittle it. I feel like anytime that you have a downturn in the economy, then it's going to be something that we don't want to see, but we know is part of living in a capitalistic society. So with that being said, I was thinking a lot about whether or not we are taking the proper precautions, or thinking about how we would kind of weather this storm if by chance a recession did hit. And I think that a lot can be done to prepare ourselves for times that may be different than what we're used to. And oftentimes what keeps people from going into financial ruin and just disaster overall is the fact that you're able to see what's coming before it actually hits. And there's a lot that I believe that we can do, because the one thing we've learned over time is that these things repeat. And so we can learn lessons from what we have experienced in history. And so if you look back in time and look at the consulting industry in particular, consulting is a area that can be easily cut when there is any type of economic downturn, because of course you're the outsider. And if you have your business positioned that way, where you are not intimately involved in the day-to-day workflow, it's going to be very easy to cut that expense and remove you from the picture, whether that's on the consumer level or on the business level or in the B2B space. But there are a number of things that we can do to keep that from happening. And one of the benefits in the pandemic was that many businesses, especially now, even many smaller businesses that once were not able to really secure a lot of help from consultants, definitely, larger consulting firms, now have access to solo consultants and other small firms and boutiques in order to help them navigate these difficult waters. So this can be an opportunity for us to grow and for us to really make headway in spite of what may be some level of economic instability. There is a quote by Richard Branson I was looking at recently, and it states that in times of recession, there are massive opportunities and fortunes to be made, which is actually true. And for new and up and coming entrepreneurs, this is the time to go and start a business. He is saying how important it is for us to keep moving forward when it comes to entrepreneurship, when it comes to building our businesses, when it comes to really growing our consulting practice. So I want this episode to be all about some of the lessons that we can learn from the past and how we can utilize that to prepare ourselves for the future, whatever that may be. So to start off, I wanted to talk about what I feel like the first step when it comes to navigating an unpredictable course in terms of the economy and the economic landscape. And that is really starting with your offer. I talk about this a lot. I talk about having a core offer, the importance of having a core offer, a signature offer that you're known for. And this is part of the reason why, because it's much easier for you to adapt when you have one particular offer, specialty area, key service that you provide that you're known for, and that people can also become more familiar with over time, instead of you reinventing the wheel every time that you're trying to land a client. And one of the things that I highly recommend is that in these times, it's really important for us to just begin to reevaluate the offer that we have, because what we want to ensure is that in these times that we're focusing on a need that's actually essential. It's kind of a no-brainer that whenever we get into these difficult moments, we're going to see pretty much all of the economy kind of contract. And so people are going to reduce their expenses. They're going to be cutting costs, reducing risk, things of that nature. And so because of that, they are not going to be as open to spending as we have been in the past. I feel like the last couple of years, people have been spending like crazy. But, now people are going to begin to cut back. And so we have to think about, instead of offering things that are not essential, that seem to be targeted toward luxury services or projects that are not required or necessary, we need to start thinking about how to reposition our offer to focus in on those elements of value that really speak to our basic physiological needs, those things such as, food and security and health. This all goes back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that same concept. And I've, cited this before, but Harvard Business Review actually has a wonderful article that spells out the elements of value pyramid. And this elements of value pyramid is pretty much very similar to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which talks about how in these moments, well, just in business in general, for consumers as well as businesses, there are different levels in terms of needs that have to be satisfied as you are moving along that trajectory to the point where you get to self-actualization. So as we're going through that process, each time you move from level to level, you're moving away from those things that are more essential to those areas that are seen to be eventually luxuries are not essential for life. And so in these times, we need to think about what is most essential for the life of the consumer, and then what's most essential for the life of the business, and begin to center our services around that. So for a consumer space, that's focusing in on things such as food or security or health. So for instance, anything that's associated with maintaining health is going to be, a great target. If you're dealing with security, especially financial security, people are going to be willing to pay for that type of consulting services. As a matter of fact, I think I was reading recently about one of the, it was a list of a number of areas of consulting to go into. And one during these difficult times was being a financial consultant or a financial advisor. And it made sense because that ties to that basic need of security, that financial security in our society for us to be able to have food, shelter, and just maintain our way of life. So those are things that are going to be most beneficial to tie into in some shape, form, or fashion when you're dealing with consumers. Now, when you're in the business to business space, it's going to be somewhat similar in many aspects. So this is going to really require you to think about what is most essential for that business or organization to survive. And instead of looking at projects that you're trying to sell that may be extra or maybe nice to have, we need to start thinking about what are those projects, what are those activities, tasks, requirements that need to be completed that become a necessary expense regardless of what may be happening in the economy or in the industry. So, for instance, in healthcare, there are going to be a number of various qualifications and requirements for funding that have to be met. And those expectations are set no matter what happens in terms of the economy in any type of downturn. And so if you're working in that space, it's extremely important to focus in on those things that are associated with being able to receive that reimbursement, those quality measures that are going to be evaluated for funding. Those are the types of things that we want to really tune into and focus our work around because those are indispensable expenses. And so we want to brainstorm where we can begin to position ourselves and our service to be in line with those things that are going to be as significant for the business and for the industry. And we want to do that through our unique expertise, through our talent, through our skill set, to be able to offer a way for them to survive. Because if you're offering a way for them to survive, a way for them to stay afloat, a way for them to make money, a way for them to continue to do business, then that is just like dealing with the consumer. That is that aspect of security that you're tying yourself into. And so this is a way that we can really begin to safeguard ourselves and somewhat provide a protection and a shield so that we're able to keep our businesses afloat. So one of the first things we want to do is really start by reevaluating our offers. If you're finding yourself following all the successful accounts on Instagram and LinkedIn and YouTube, and you're just trying to recreate their strategies but haven't experienced much growth, or you're consistently sharing tons of helpful content within your industry, almost burning yourself out, but you're still struggling to get potential clients to see the value of the services that you offer, if that's the case, it's time for you to be seen as the expert that you are. It's time for you to make a greater impact. So here's the deal. Using a cookie cutter approach won't help you stand out from the crowd or attract the aligned clients that you need to build a profitable business and create the freedom you desire to live life on your own terms. Your expertise is unique and your approach should be awesome. That's why I created my signature program, Position to Excel, which is a highly focused, curriculum-based, personalized coaching program developed to help you accelerate the growth of your consulting business by creating a magnetic core offer, an expert personal brand to position your services to sell effectively. And unlike other programs that rely on traditional methods to attract leads, we develop a personalized approach to fill your pipeline without cold calls or reliance on referrals and RFPs. So if you're interested in taking your consulting business to the next level or starting and getting yours off the ground, visit www.excellaconsulting.com, apply for positions to excel, and let's get started. Okay, now the second thing that we want to do is to optimize our marketing strategy. This is going to be very important because business that becomes unpredictable is going to require you to look for new signals that may arise. So the key with marketing is that you're, of course, tracking your data. You're looking at how you are able to communicate with potential clients and prospects, where you're able to meet them, how you're able to communicate a message, the message you're communicating, whether or not that's effective, how you are navigating them through the buyer's journey, all of those things. And when you are in an environment that is no longer the same as it was, then there is a need to really reevaluate how you're trying to do outreach or attraction marketing. And there is no way to know this if you are not really tracking and looking at your data. So definitely in these periods, it is going to become essential for you to think about how you can market more efficiently, mainly because you need to conserve your resources. You need to conserve your energy. You need to conserve the amount of money that you're putting out because you can't afford to market without a strategy. I know I can't. And the thing is, when we are marketing without a strategy, that means that you are pretty much throwing money out the door, out the window, because you're relying on chance. You're relying on the chance that somehow the message is going to resonate. You're relying on the chance that somehow the ad is going to do well. You're relying on the chance that somehow the content that you're putting out is going to be seen. But if we don't have a strategy behind that, if we're not tracking it, if we're not trying to improve upon that, then we will find ourselves actually in a situation we are exhausting our resources either through our time and energy or through our money. And we can't afford to really waste either. So we need to find the best way possible to reach our potential clients. And then we need to think about how we are going to not only reach them, but increase the number of leads that we're able to generate. And then the number of leads that we're able to walk through a pipeline to actually end up, being able to make the sale and land them as clients that we can work with over a long-term basis. So I want you to really consider the fact that what is working now, if you're doing well, if you're able to generate leads, if you have a full pipeline, that system hopefully will continue to work for you. It's our hope that system will continue to work. But what I want you to do is be ready just in case that changes. And one of the reasons why I say that is because there was a article that was published by John Quelch and Catherine Jocz. Her last name is Jocz. But this was published in the Harvard Business Review back right after the 2008 recession. And that particular article talked about how to market in a downturn. And one of the things that they cite in this article from their observation and from the data is that the typical process for segmentation, the traditional way that we actually segment our offers, by demographics or by lifestyle, that is typically unreliable in an instance where there is a downturn. Because instead of that being a good indicator as to how people are going to buy or purchase, then it really shifts to one that is more psychological. So what they recommend is that we focus on more of a psychological segmentation, meaning that we're going to begin to reevaluate how our potential clients, how our prospects are beginning to consume things, beginning to purchase things during these difficult times, and then what they're also eliminating and why. How we're messaging may have to shift so that we can speak to where they are psychologically based upon their reality and what they're experiencing financially. So that hopefully makes a bit of sense. If you are beginning to message as you've been in a economy that has been doing well, where people have had extra money and disposable income, And that message is all about how to, kind of be more extravagant, how to do things that are seen as more of a luxury. Well, that message may not resonate the same way when you're in a downturn because people are psychologically going into this mode of protection. They're going into the process of trying to scale back, to be cautious. And so your messaging may need to shift so you can speak to that more cautious mindset instead of one that's more carefree. And like I said, we hope that your messaging is going to remain on point because, hey, look, it takes so long to get your messaging right that once it is right, you never want to shift because it's such a challenge to get that really aligned again. But this is just one consideration that we have to make. And we want to ensure that we're staying on top of this because we can create a very simple and low cost marketing strategy because in all honesty, we also need to think about how we can conserve our resources. And conserving our resources means that we need to target more effectively. We can't wait until the bottom falls out. Because the thing is, when the bottom falls out, when everything it's kind of up in the air and you're just looking for sales, you're looking for a way to make money, it's much harder for you to tune into what people are actually resonating with because you're so focused and fixated on making the sale. And then also, I'm a big believer in the impact of energetics when it comes to selling. And one thing that waiting too long will cause this energy of desperation. And that desperate energy is what causes a level of distrust. Now, keep in mind that when you're in a situation where people are being more cautious with their spending, then that is already going to be a trust issue that's there because they are thinking about how they need to make the best decision. So it's a situation where they may not even trust themselves to make the best decision, let alone trust you. So there needs to be the proper energy, the proper energetics that allows you to really sell your services from a position of strength to offer help. And that is more easily done before the bottom falls out. So I'm going back to preparing ahead of time, trying to think about these things ahead of time, focusing your energy on these things ahead of time, tracking your data ahead of time, thinking about your marketing ahead of time. That is going to be the easiest way for you to be able to truly offer the most to your industry so that you're able to not only help those that are in need, but then also attract the business that is out there because they see you as a trustworthy resource and someone who truly can help them navigate this difficult time. So the second thing, once again, is that we want to think about how we're optimizing our marketing strategy. Last but not least, the one thing I want to recommend that you do is be ready to prove your return on investment. Now, return on investment is really a concept in consulting that has not often been addressed. Actually, as a matter of fact, I can look back on my bookshelf. I have a book that's called The Consultant Scorecard, and it's all about this whole concept of return on investment in consulting because for so long, it was very difficult for businesses to really find a way to accurately assess the full return on investment for consulting services, depending upon what those services may be, especially if they were not tied directly to a financial return. And so we have to think now about how we can prove our value. Because once again, we're that external piece of the puzzle that if we have not done a good job, as I just spoke about, previously, of embedding ourselves into the business or into their lives so they feel like that's essential. If we have not really created that level of a tie in relationship, then the next thing that we can do is to really focus on being able to show a clear return. Because if you're able to show that you can save money, that you can provide security, that you can prevent disaster, those types of things are going to be easy to invest in. People are going to invest in things that they know work. They're leery about the things that they don't know whether it works, right? So when it comes to return on investment, there is the need to think about how you're going to capture this data. it is not good enough. And I really feel like it's not good enough, no matter if it's a downturn in the economy or not. It's not good enough to simply expect people to trust that you're doing the job, for them to trust that you're getting them the result, for them to trust that they are going to be able to walk away with the outcome. Whatever the result may be, whatever your outcome may be, whether that's tangible or intangible, you want to create a system where you're able to provide markers of progress, and then you're able to show the return on investment for the services that you provide. This builds trust. This is what builds confidence and reassurance. This is what they want. They want reassurance. Going back to those elements, those foundational, basic physiological and psychological elements, they want security. They want confidence. They want reassurance. And so when we are providing a return on investment, when we're able to show that what we are doing is benefiting them, that's benefiting them and not taking advantage of them, then that is going to resonate. That is going to cause them to trust you, to invest in you, and to continue to work with you over the long term. So whether it's data tracking, reporting that data out, being able to benchmark if you can, definitely if you are in the business space, those are things that are going to be huge wins on your part if you're able to incorporate them in your offer, into your services. And once again, make sure you're capturing that, whether it's tangible or intangible. How can you begin to have checkpoints so that if it is an intangible result, you can translate that intangible outcome into some level of improvement that gives a more tangible number to that? Think creatively about how you can ensure that you're capturing progress along the way, that you're able to go back and show how someone has gained clarity, how they have been able to move to the next level, how they have been able to secure another job in a downturn, or secure the job that they have and maybe get a raise or whatever it may be that you do if you're a career consultant, how you've been able to help them navigate these waters. That is going to be something that people are going to be looking for because they don't have money to waste. That's true even in a good market, but it's even more so true when you are in a downturn. So, lastly, just being ready to prove, to show that return on investment. Don't expect people to take your word for it. Just show up with the data. Tell a story with your data. Let them know that you are there to serve and that you have the ability to show them that they're making progress. So look, the bottom line is this, that we cannot control what happens in the economy. Now, at least not us on the individual level. We may not be able to control that, but what we can control is how we respond. We can always control how we respond. And by us being proactive, it keeps us from being in this reactive space where we feel frazzled, where we make bad decisions potentially, and where we're unable to navigate effectively because we just waited too long. There's no need to wait. And right now you have a formula that you can use in order to ensure that you're able to navigate this storm. And what happens when we're able to do this? History has shown that it is true. But back to the quote that I stated earlier, history has shown that those individuals that have been able to weather the storm, whether they started a new business or they were growing at the time, actually come out farther ahead. This is your opportunity to really catapult your growth if you take advantage of it. But it's going to require you being able to navigate the storm and stay afloat through it all, no matter how long it lasts. And so that mindset has to be one where we are entering this space with confidence, knowing that we have a plan and that we're able to pivot and adjust as necessary so that we can actually, on the other side of this, really be stronger and bigger, better, greater, more impactful as consultants on the other end. So I hope this episode helps. I hope it gets your mind just going and the wheels turning so that you can think about how you want to better position yourself. If by chance we end up in this difficult spot, I'm hoping that we're going to be able to, get by and navigate the waters without any difficulty and any real, negative outcomes. But if things do get a little bit tough, then we don't have to worry too much if we have a plan. We don't have to, feel as if it is inevitable that we would fail. We can actually use this as an opportunity to grow and advance beyond where we may have previously imagined. So I'm wishing you all that good luck and energy. And if you keep tuning in here, I will keep talking about how we can navigate this together and continue to build this community. Look, if you're not following me yet on Instagram, definitely at Dr. Angelina Davis. Follow and send me a message. Let me know that you're a listener of the podcast. I'd love to shout you out and share your business and your info. And then also on LinkedIn, definitely I am under that same name, Dr. Angelina Davis there. I love you to connect with me there as well. I'm always looking to grow this community with friends and other consultants. So until next time, guys, take care. Thank you for tuning in to the Black Girls Consult 2 podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to leave your review on Apple Podcasts, subscribe, and share it with a friend. We're on a mission to increase the success and longevity of women in consulting, and you can help us do that. Also, I'd love to hear from you, so let's connect at Dr. Angelina Davis on Instagram or LinkedIn. And don't forget to visit excelatconsulting.com for more information to support your consulting journey. Until next time, take care.